Tonight, Willie Jerome Manning, the man on death row for killing two Mississippi State University students back in 1992, has filed yet another motion for a rehearing of his case, citing new evidence. Yesterday, Manning's attorneys filed a new motion stating in part, new evidence proves the trial evidence unreliable, false, or both, and there is no reliable evidence against Manning. Well, today, Attorney General Len Fitch responded in opposition, saying Manning's motion for rehearing raises nothing new. In a split decision last month, the state Supreme Court rejected Manning's motion to have new evidence heard in circuit court, saying in part the new evidence would not have changed the outcome of the trial.